Hi, Sherry with Unita. I'm here today to talk to you about our EKAPRO sanding kit, why this guy is so important and what it can do for your business. If you're refinishing furniture or cabinetry, this guy can save you time and money. It gives you the ability to get into corners where formerly we were struggling, we were doing it by hand and it took much longer. Now we have the abrasives to do that with the sander to fit. Let's unbox it and see what we got. Starting off strong, we have our tool kit, our tool bag. This bag will hold your sander and your abrasives. This comes in the cardboard box kit. Inside, we'll give you a list of all the abrasives that you get and what they're used for, and it gives you your warranty information on your sander. Let's unbox the sander. Here's the star of the show. This is our 3x4 EKASAND sander. This is a brushless motor, DC driven, for longer life. It gives you an exponentially longer life expectancy than a regular box store sander. This is a direct drive system, so you need to remember that when you're sanding. It is only orbiting in a circle, similar to what a grinder would do, is it's just going in a circle. So it does have some limitations when it comes to finish sanding. But overall, this sander will save you time. I can now get in the corners of the cabinet doors. I can get into a shelf or boxes, your drawer boxes, anything that you need to put a scratch in. So this is your EKASAND sander. Let's unbox the abrasives. When we unbox the abrasives, the first thing we'll unbox is the foam. There's 3 different thicknesses of foam. It starts off with our 1/2 inch. Our 1/2 inch was really the first one to hit the market. That was really big. Everybody really liked this because if you drop in on crown molding, it wraps the flutes. It looks real pretty when you're doing a door that has a raised panel or a profile. It really does a good job in sanding that without changing that profile. However, it is not good on flats. If you're starting to sand on flats like a shaker door or your rails and stiles and they're flat, you're going to need to go to another abrasive. This will not. This is a very squishy foam, which means that that grain really recedes into that foam. This isn't called an open cell foam, so it really, the grain just drops down in and you really don't get a good bite. If I'm sanding flats, I'm going to use my 10 mil, especially on a shaker door. One of the problems we have with shaker doors is when we put the sander in the center panel, if the sander is not above the wood, you're going to hit the wood and you may mar it or mark it and you'll have to repair that. With the 10 mil, it gives us the clearance that we need to be above the wood. This is perfect for flats. We also still carry the 5 mil. You'll get the 5 mil in here also. With the 5 mil, if you're doing large flat surfaces, so think cabinet shelving, that's one area where the 10 mil is good, but the 5 mil, it's less expensive and it's a quicker way to sand with that. So you're still on flat surfaces. And then we've added our 3-sided sponge. And what the 3-sided sponge gives us is it gives us the ability to sand on the sides. So on a shaker door, that inside profile, when you're refinishing a cabinet, it's really important to catch that inside profile. And the reason being is a lot of times that's where gook and gunk will cling in there and really leave an area that will allow for that paint to not really adhere to the wood and it's easily scraped off. This will allow us to sand that all the way around. So that is your foam. So after your foam, we're going to open up the second box. And in the second box, we have our abrasive sheets. And then, of course, our pad savers and our interface pads. There's a couple of uses for these guys. The pad saver is really in the box to save the backup pad for one, but 2, it acts as a shock absorber. A lot of times with these sanders, because like I said, they are direct drive, when you drop in on a center panel on a shaker door, it will vibrate. And when it starts to vibrate, it'll start to skip across the surface and it'll leave some swirl marks. To limit those, what we do is we add this pad saver to the sheet good and it allows us to get into the corners and sand evenly with minimal vibration. Again, when we go back and we talk about shaker doors, we talked about the 10 mil being what we need to prevent damage. Same thing goes here. If I'm sanding a shaker door and I have a sheet good on there, I'm going to add this hard density interface pad. And the hard density keeps me above the wood, but it allows that abrasive to still be standing up prominent and allow me to sand and get a good scratch. There's also a 1/2 inch. These are really good if you've got like some deep cove molding where you need to dig in. You can actually offset this on the sander and actually use that front end as a rocker. So the 1/2 inch is needed. Let's talk abrasives. So we were talking about a coated abrasive versus a foam abrasive. This is called a coated abrasive or a conventional abrasive. This is a foam. When you hear the term conventional, this is what we're talking about. What a conventional abrasive is it's abrasive grain on this film sheet. The film allows us to get away from the edge wear that we see with paper discs or paper sheets, where you'll start to see them start to tear on the edges as you go in. The other thing with the FILMTEK is that it has a little bit of latex. So if I crunch it up on itself, I don't get any cracking here. That's meaning when I'm sanding, I'm not losing grain. And that's hugely important that we don't get it in the surface where we see it in our finish. So when we're looking at abrasives, film is flatter than paper, and like I said, it's more durable. So those come in the kit also. You get in the kit an array of grits. So we've got the 180, the 150, and a 120 in the kit for you to try. That way you kind of get a taste of what grit sequence you want to use. With the foam, you get an array of 3 different grits with each thickness. So you can, again, you're going to get a chance to try a little bit of everything. And that gives you the ability to try it without buying a big box that you're never going to use and wasting money. This thing will save you time, it'll save you money, it'll give you a better sand and a better finish. If you have any questions, reach out to us at Unita. Thanks and have a great day.